Hey guys, so today we're gonna talk about the NAPLEX. All right, so I know a lot of y'all are probably in the process of preparing for the NAPLEX or possibly didn't pass and need to retake it. So this content right here, this episode is gonna be geared more towards somebody who hasn't taken the NAPLEX. And then I'll come out with another episode that's really geared to someone who already took it and didn't pass and what I would recommend you do to be able to pass it the second time. All right. So I got a little note card here with some notes. So if you look down, that's what I'm looking at. But basically, the most important thing when it comes to the NAPLEX is to know the exam, okay? You need to understand what sections and materials are going to be on the exam. There's a certain percentage, and I could put that information in this video, but I want you to do the work. So literally just Google the NAPLEX, Google the sections of the NAPLEX to figure out what percentage means the most. And you'll see probably in there like calculations is like 14%. That's an easy A if you practice calculations a lot. You know what I'm saying? So definitely look at it to kind of see what matters the most. There's like drug therapy, interpreting data, med safety, like quality improvement. There's different sections, but they each have a percentage. So I really want you to kind of investigate and look at that to see what matters. And I also want you to think about this. This is a nationally standardized exam. I repeat, a nationally standardized exam. So that means they're not gonna ask you like the most minute detail about a medication or about a disease state. They're not gonna ask you for like the third or fourth line option to treat something. It's probably gonna be first or second line. It's probably going to be about brand or generic. You have to understand, like, have good test taking skills, right? Some of you all might have testing anxiety, but you have to realize that this exam isn't built to trick you. It's to see, do you have the baseline knowledge to be a competent pharmacist, okay? So it's just baseline information that you really need to know. It's not the most intricate details about everything. And I know that RX Prep Book gives you a lot of information because I took the exam and I didn't need all the information that was in it, but they try to include everything, okay? So that's gonna bring me to my next point, your resource, right? You need to have a quality resource that you're using in order to pass this exam. And for some people, I think after they take the first exam, they realize RX Prep isn't the best material for them. But I don't want that to happen to you, okay? We don't want that to happen to you. So what I want you to do is be honest with yourself and see what type of resources are best for me. Some people, it's just take a whole bunch of practice exams. Some people, it's just reading content. Other people, it's watching videos. And RX Prep now has videos that you can watch. And I have friends that use that. I just read the book and that was all I did. And there's other options out there. There's TrueLearn, there's UWorld, there's different options. I haven't used any of them, so I can't attest to how beneficial they are. But if you feel like you're studying the NAPLEX RX Prep Book or you're watching the videos and it's not helping you learn and comprehend this information, then try using a different resource, okay? Don't limit yourself just to that. Try using something else if that's what's worked best. For me, I know I'm a mixed modal learner. So that means I can watch something or I could read something or I could write something down and I could probably learn it the same way. So I did a little bit of everything. I'd watch YouTube vids on disease states I was confused about. I would read the book and I would write things down on flashcards for me to remember or write down notes for me to just reference, like certain very key points that I could just glance at right before the exam day or on a day that I'm super busy. So that way I can at least try to get some studying in. So definitely know the exam is my number one recommendation. My number two definitely is the resources, right? You got to know what resources. You got to make sure the resources that you're using are best for you. And I'm going to give y'all 10 different things, 10 different tips. So my next tip is in reference to study time. You have to allocate time to this exam. When I was in my fourth year on rotations, I would contribute at least 30 minutes a day to it. And I would contribute 30 minutes a day to the section that pertained to that rotation. So what do I mean? Let's say you're doing your ambulatory care rotation. Guess what I was reviewing? If they have a diabetes clinic, I was going over the diabetes section. If they had a Coumadin clinic, I was going over anticoagulants. If it's a heart failure clinic, I'm going over heart failure, hypertension, some of the cardiac medications or the cardiology section, right? So think about that. If you're on a ICU rotation, then go over the critical care meds. Go over some fluids, electrolyte management. So it's not like it's super fresh, or I shouldn't say it's not like it's something that you're reviewing the first time when you're done with fourth year rotations and you're actually preparing for the NAPLEX. You want this to kind of be more of a refresher because you've been going over it throughout the year. And one of the things I would focus on is during your community rotation or during your hospital practice is going over some of the med safety and quality sections, and also going over the brand and generic, which brings me to my next point. Okay, well, actually, before we get to that, study time. So when I was on rotations, I would attribute about 30 minutes a day to it, right? But after that, I would probably contribute about 4 hours a day when I was done with rotations to preparing for the NAPLEX. So if you're unable to contribute 4 hours, I know that's tough, that's understandable, but try to allocate at least 3 hours, right? That's hopefully that's not asking too much, but you do want to take the time to take this as a serious exam and prepare as best as you can so you don't have to take it again. So definitely try to allocate 3 to 4 hours of your time when you're done with rotations to the NAPLEX. Now, I want to go into brand and generic. Okay, you got to know the top 200. That's not a joke. You have to know it. You really, really have to know it, especially when it comes to the disease states you're probably not most comfortable with. So maybe those psych meds, maybe those HIV meds, maybe those specialty meds. Definitely, I would say specialty meds would probably be the one section a lot of us probably struggle with unless you did a specialty rotation. So I'd highly recommend that you know the top 200 brand and generic and study for that every day. Practice the math every day. If I was unable to spend a lot of time, maybe I was going to a wedding, or maybe there was a whole bunch of events, baby shower, different things going on, I would definitely at minimum practice brand and generic and practice the math every single day, because the math is a freebie. If you're able to practice that, review it, know it like the back of your hand, you're good. You'll be good. So I practiced the math so much, and I really did focus on the top 200. And you can even do that in the middle of different activities. I'd be in line waiting for a pub sub, and I'll just pull up my phone. I had on Quizlet my top 200, and I just review it. And anybody who's listening who wants access to the top 200, just message me and I'll go ahead and send you a link to my Quizlet so you can access the top 200 brand and generic list that I had. Please use it if it helps you. It might save you time so you don't have to type it out. But definitely try to maximize your time, allocate time to it, and definitely know brand and generic and the math and practice that daily. Now, another thing that kind of ties into practicing is exam prepping, and that's by doing practice exams. You have to get comfortable with the type of questions they'll ask you. So I highly recommend you take at least 2 or 3 probably practice exams. And it could be the same practice exam. I used the one that RX Prep had, and I think I did it 2 or 3 times. They usually recommend with RX Prep, if you get a score above a 75, that you're ready to take the NAPLEX. And so the first time I did it, I passed. I think I got a 78 and I was ready, but I didn't feel confident, so I didn't want to rush and take it yet. So I kept studying and preparing. I think the second time I got in the 80s, and I was like, all right, I'm probably ready to take the exam now. But, move at your own pace, but definitely take exams questions, because you want to kind of get in the zone and get a feel for the type of questions they'll be asking you once you go into that room. Because it's going to be a very long exam. All right, it's 225 questions. I think it's 6 hours. It's a very long period of time. So you want to at least have a little bit of experience with the exam before you go in there. So another thing I highly recommend, which is simple, is just know the formula sheet. RX Prep provides a great formula sheet towards the back of the book, all right? Towards the back of the book, there's a great formula sheet that I recommend you know front and back, all right? It goes over drug conversions. It goes over, so drug conversions, let's say statins. I believe it might also have lithium in there, potassium chloride. So it's drug conversions that are important. That's very simple math, but if you don't know the conversion, you're screwed on the exam. So I highly recommend that you definitely focus on that study sheet. And if you know most of those formulas on the front page and on the back page, that's a good indicator that you could possibly be ready to take the exam. Another thing, when it comes to treatment plan, focus on first and second line options, all right? It's a nationally standardized exam. They're not really gonna dive into like the fourth line, all right? I kind of said this earlier, definitely know first and second line options. Next, this can help you and save you on study time, which is know the lesser of the two. What do you mean by that? Well, I'm glad you asked. So basically what I'm getting at is when it comes to certain things, like let's say fluids and let's say it's fluids, right? We're talking about fluids, like certain meds that need to be mixed in NS versus certain meds that need to be mixed in dextrose, right? D5W. Well, there's two different lists. There's NS and there's D5W. So with D5W, there's a shorter list than there is with NS, with normal saline. So I'm gonna memorize the one that's on dextrose because it's a shorter list. So if you know which drugs has to be mixed with dextrose, then if you get an exam question about which ones need to be mixed with NS, then it's obviously not gonna be any of the options that have dextrose. Easy peasy, right? So I think it's the acronym is BOAS, so BOAS. So make sure to look in the NAPLEX and kind of see what are those options, right? So you want to know the lesser of the two because then it makes it easier for you and you don't have to memorize everything. Now, another tip that I would like to say is definitely do not focus on sections that you're bad at, all right? I didn't spend much on infectious disease. I didn't spend much time on oncology. I was like, hey, these aren't my greatest strong suits. I'm just gonna know the baseline information. I'm gonna try to know chemo man. I'm gonna try to know whatever I gotta know for infectious disease, first line options, maybe a couple second line. If I don't got it, I don't got it. I'm not gonna spend my entire time just studying this because what is the likelihood of me only getting asked questions on this? You're not studying to be a board certified infectious disease pharmacist. You're preparing to become a pharmacist. So you need to know about everything. So don't just lock in and focus on only your weak areas. You got to make sure you're competent in all the areas. And that's the thing, competent, not a genius, not a pro, but competent. So that's why it's important to not just lock in and focus on the areas that you feel you're super weak at, because you may not get that many questions on your exam about it. All right. And last but not least, it's probably the most important thing, to be honest with you. You just got to be confident. You got to walk in there with confidence. And the way you'll do that is through your preparation. So if you're giving yourself those 30 minutes a day on your fourth year rotations, if you're contributing and allocating 3 to 4 hours of your day when you're done with rotations to the NAPLEX and maybe studying for 4 to 6 weeks, I'm confident that you'll pass. And it can't be 4 hours of you on your phone, scrolling, not locked into what you're reading or the RX prep video. It's not 4 hours of wasting time. It's 4 hours of truly studying and reviewing and retaining information. And if you do that, I promise you, you will pass this exam on the first try. And trust me, it's not easy. There were some days where I was studying and I was definitely like scrolling through my phone, like, I don't feel like doing this. Take a break, do something else, come back to it. But it's important that you truly dedicate a good amount of time to it. And I promise you, you will pass the NAPLEX. Now, if you're listening and you did not pass the NAPLEX on the first try, I know that's tough, but feel free to hit me up. Go to tinyurl.com/capsulerxservices. All right, tinyurl.com/capsulerxservices. Go ahead and sign up. Once I see you sign up, I'll shoot you a message and we can connect. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about any of that. I want you guys to be successful and I want you guys to pass this exam and be pharmacists. So hit me up if you need any help. Let me know if this content was valuable, if it helped you prepare for the NAPLEX. Definitely please like this video, share it with your colleagues, and definitely leave a comment below, guys. You know, I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate all the love and support that we've been getting. Definitely, we have some shorts out that kind of condense the information that's in this video, and I'll be trying to create some more content soon for any of people who didn't pass on the first try to help you prepare for the NAPLEX. So definitely tune in, Capsule RX Podcast. We greatly appreciate it. You can find us on all platforms at @new_Capsule RX Podcast. And the reason why it's new is because we got locked out of our old account. So at @new_Capsule RX Podcast. You can find us on all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this video, we're on YouTube. And so we're just here to help. So thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for listening. And like I said, if you're struggling with preparing for the NAPLEX, you need any assistance, feel free to hit me up, tinyurl.com/capsularc services. I'll shoot you a message and help you the best way I can. Thank you guys.